Good morning.
Morning.
Hey.
Are your cats surviving the heat?
Yeah, they're doing good. As long as we don't lose air condition, we're good. Can you hear them banging on the door trying to get in?
Oh, okay.
Can you see my screen okay, Janet?
Uh-huh.
Okay, awesome. This is one of your top 5, right?
Yes. That's funny.
Yeah. But if I let them in, they'll be terrorizing it in here. Stop. Stop. They only do this when I'm on the Zoom calls,
Just like kids.
Yeah, otherwise they're sleeping and I get on a call and they're fighting.
So what does your brother do, if I may ask?
My brother runs a team of real estate agents, and it's about between 26 to 30 real estate agents.
Good night.
And he lives in Omaha, Nebraska.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and then
you're the only Texan.
Yeah. And I just help out with some of the back end operational stuff. So. But it's been really good. We're very different in personality. I think that like if someone was looking from the outside in, they might not think so, but between him and I, we feel like we're very different. But it's been a very good it's just like what we preach here, when you're really different, it takes some work to get aligned and on the same page, but it's also really good when you can get, different people using different parts of their talents.
Right.
Yeah. I do not know what to do about these cats. Why are they doing this? Stop. What are we doing? It's the 2 boys fighting, so I just pulled one of them in, so we'll see if that helps.
How funny.
It's like, why are you right outside the door fighting? Go somewhere else. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I did it was long, but I did a 2-day positive thinking webinar.
Nice.
I mean, I was exhausted by the time Saturday night at 5 rolled around, but yeah. And then I went to church yesterday and ran into a couple that I knew in my hometown growing up. I mean, I knew they lived in the area, but I didn't know their son went to church where I did. And so it was nice to see them. So How about you?
Yeah, it was good. I think I just did the norm, which was working out and, seeing a couple friends. And then I always work a lot during the weekends because there's so much, focused time to sit and work on things. And it's so hot. I went outside a couple times, but it's just so hot.
Yeah.
I only spend so much time out there. So, yeah. Now he's meowing, but that's better than the banging.
I had to laugh because Friday night, when the thing finished, I went to get my car to go to the grocery store. And so I realized I left something. So I head back towards the garage and I hear this like loud, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I thought, well, it scared me so bad. I guess I was so tense that I jumped and screamed, turned around, and it was my neighbor's grandson that's 3 years old. He was in the backyard swimming and saw me getting out of the car.
So it was the little kid that yelled at you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, Max, I haven't seen you in forever.
Mm-hmm. Hello, ladies that just joined. Cindy, Michelle, Susan, Stacy.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
How is everybody?
Good for a Monday.
Good. Yeah. It's so hot. I have friends who were out of the country for the last 3 weeks, and their vehicle was in their garage. And when we came back, their battery wouldn't, was down and the car wouldn't start. And they said it was just simply because it's been sitting in there with the heat and hasn't gotten any air.
Yeah, they say when I
that
got
happened.
a battery replaced this last time for my car,
Yeah.
because I've still got my Durango, I've had for 8 years. And they said that actually, because everybody says the cold will really run down a battery.
Okay.
And they said that actually the Texas heat is even worse than the cold on a battery.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So I have a second car in my garage. I'll probably have to check on it at some point, see if it's actually sitting in there cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Brad. You're on mute, Brad.
Hey, Brandy.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Oh my goodness, this cat is killing me, you guys. Here. Oh, he's not outside the door causing trouble. He's in here causing trouble. This is the little boy.
No.
How about you sit right here and just stay
Boys
right
will do that. Yep.
Okay, so let's get started. We're talking about the restorative strength today. I know that this is some of your top 5 strength, and I know that some of you also have this as like a bottom strength. So we should have a very interesting discussion, that being said, today. So restorative is found 20% of the time. It's about the same as strategic. And it is in the purple zone, which is the executing zone. Now, it is very specific execution, is really executing when there's a problem to be solved. So it's not blind execution like maybe an achiever might do. Achievers just like to achieve, and they're just executing to execute. But restorative are very high executors, but only when they see it as a problem to be, a problem that needs to be solved. So when you're working with them, you always want to position things that way if you need their help with something. It falls into the 7th zone here on the strength zones, and that's the evaluative zone. It is very detail oriented. It likes to know how things actually work. It likes to know, the root cause or the mechanics, and it gets down in there to say, okay, how does this actually work? So that we can actually solve the problem. So no matter how complex, people with restorative find and tackle the source of difficult problems until the issues have been completely resolved. They can be self-critical, and that's on here because if you think about it, if you're looking at things as problematic, or if you're motivated or interested, or your brain is engaged when there is a problem, that is also the same process that you're experiencing with yourself. So you're saying, what do I need to fix? What do I need to do? The problem is me. I need to change something or skill up or whatever it is. So they can be pretty hard on themselves. They have a huge focus on constant improvement. So they're always improving themselves. They're also improving everything around them, whether it's people, processes. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. He's going to tear a hole in my doji. So just a sec. He's climbing on it. Come here. Come here. Come on. Ugh. Sorry. This stuff behind me that you see is like really fine paper, and he's crawling on it back there. So now we're gonna hear banging on the door, but I just can't win today. So let's see, what were we talking about? We're talking about how they are always improving whatever it is that they're touching. And then the other thing that you'll see them do is you'll see them gravitate towards problems, and you'll also see them create problems that aren't necessarily there, but it's because they'll turn it into a problem because that's how they get motivated to execute on it. And if they're not turning it into a problem in their mind, then they don't get it done. It doesn't get execution around it. So they will reframe things in their mind to be able to be motivated. Okay. They find breakdowns motivating, challenges motivating. The harder the problem, the more complex the problem, the more interesting it is to them. An interesting thing about this strength is that they do apply it to people a lot of the times, but it's not the best use of it. Number one, people don't like to be seen as problematic. So it doesn't really go over well with them if you're, looking at them as a problem. And people are hard, let's say, problems to solve. People are extremely complex. And if someone doesn't want to change or resolve their own issues, they're not going to. There has to be an element of desire to want to change or improve or, fix one's problems. So a lot of times what can happen is people with restorative can get, they can gravitate towards and be attracted to problematic people that don't want to solve their problems. And so it's just this constant set of problems with this person. And restorative get really frustrated when the problems remain unresolved. So they like problems, but they also like to solve the problems. And so if the problems are remaining unresolved, then it can be an extremely frustrating situation. Now, the circle or the cycle is that they also are very persevered. They're not going to quit until the problem has been resolved. So you can see this terrible cycle that sometimes restorative people can get into, especially when it comes to other people, is here's this problematic situation, you're trying to solve it, and it's unsolvable because someone else doesn't want to solve the problems. And I think also, like, as we all do, we all get into that, people are like us, so of course they want to solve the problem, but that's not the case. Not everybody does want their problem solved. Okay, so they have a naturally, I would say, critical eye where they can see, what's wrong, what's the problem, how do we fix it? And as long as someone is receptive to then then it works well. It always works well in high execution areas, problems like engineering processes, anything that requires a large amount of solutioning. Okay. What thoughts do you guys have? Does anybody have anything else to add or questions?
So I have a question. When it gets to the people part, trying to solve the people part, do they become codependent?
What is your definition of codependent?
Well, where they're dependent on somebody else to satisfy their needs is kind of how I tend to view it.
So I don't know. The restorative are very independent, and they also believe that everything is their problem, and they believe they need to be solving the problem. And so it's not a codependency on the other person at all to solve their problems or to stabilize them emotionally, or it's nothing like that. They're just attracted to problems and solving the problems. And so it can become, I would say, more of an obsession rather than a codependency of just trying to solve this problem and not letting go until the problem is solved. But the problem is that, you know,
It's not going to be.
yeah, if that person doesn't want to get help and resolve things, then it's just cyclical.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Any other thoughts on that, especially those of you who have restorative and have probably been through some of these situations?
I have a point where it doesn't drive me crazy to let it go.
Yeah.
I have a point, call it a breaking point, to where I can't fix this. They don't want my help. I think it's crazy, but I will let it go because it will frustrate me to no end.
Do you think that was somewhat learned, like after, maturing, because maybe in your earlier years, you didn't let it go and it drove you crazy and you finally said, look, I just got to find a way to let go.
Yes. In my younger years, it was worse. That's where, as I got older, I realized it's causing anger issues.
Yeah.
And as I got older, then I dealt with that and finally figured out through my career, there's just some things that I can't fix.
Yeah.
There's too many barriers in my way that I have. There's literally nothing I can do about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like the serenity prayer, right? Because it's like finally just going, look, there's some things you can't change. I mean, you can only work hard and have the grit to change the things that you can change. But there's some things that are just out of our control or power.
Yeah, that's where the wisdom comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, for me, as you well know, Brandy, I experienced it at one point on process improvement, and nobody wanted to take the time to make the changes. So I just had to let it, like you said, let it go and say, okay.
Yeah. If the desire is not there, by people that need to have the desire to make the changes, you have to let it go and move on and refocus your energy and time on something else that's going to be more productive. Okay. So what you see is that restorative is paired with responsibility 30% of the time. It's never paired with maximizer. I have had the pleasure of meeting one person in my entire span of doing this that does have restorative maximizer as a top 5 strength. What that looked like is that, and he also had developers, so he loved to fix things that were broken and then liked to take all of that to the next level. So he made it very beautiful. And so the restorative part, mainly, like, I'll give you one of the, there's actually 2 examples I have. He took an old truck vehicle and restored it, but then he put all the chrome on it and maximized it and, really made it, beautiful. Did the same thing with his backyard, just kind of revamped the backyard, restored it, but then also has now maximized it by creating these beautiful plants and lily pad looking things that go into the water. And, so someone like that just has both, enjoys problems, enjoys maximizing both. Okay. So lots of intensifications, and it's mainly because restorative is very intense. You can imagine an achiever restorative person just really loves to get problems solved, going after them hardcore. I actually worked with a restorative achiever arranger, and it was intense. I mean, you talk about, and I worked for him. So it was like, I never felt like I ever got anything done up to his standards, nor did I solve near the amount of problems I needed to be solving. And he was an arranger, so he was always changing it. It was just like, okay, now this, now this, now this, now this. I'm like, I'm not an octopus, man. There's no way I'm going to be able to do all this stuff. Actually, he had analytical too. I mean, he was really intense. And when you have analytical and restorative together, you're just really focused on the root causes and how to solve the problems and get things taken care of at the root, right? Not patching it up. If you have command and restorative, obviously you're going to be commanding that things get restored, and you're also going to be restoring command wherever it's been lost. With competition, you're going to want to be solving problems. You want to be the best problem solver that there is out there. When you're deliberative restorative, you're extremely detailed and in the weeds and making sure that you're making really, really good judgments and solving problems thoroughly. With discipline, it's like restorative and a discipline, they both have an element of process improvement or continuous improvement. So there's a lot of efficiencies that are driven with a restorative discipline person. Same with restorative focus, lots of efficiency opportunities with someone like that. Same with learner, because learner is also a continuous improvement person. I had a group one time of Microsoft problem solvers, and the most frequent pair they had was restorative ideation, because they were having to solve very complex problems creatively and differently, uniquely than they had ever done before. So that was a very powerful combination. If you have responsibility, you feel responsible for solving problems. You also feel, responsible for restoring responsibility when it's gone. So that's really strong. If you have significant, you're solving problems significantly, where you're solving significant problems that have a huge impact. And then if you're strategic, you're strategically trying to get from point A to point B by solving problems to get there. So there's a lot of intensifications for this particular one. Do any of you have these combinations and feel like they are quite intense for you?
I would say the deliberative.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, was it the deliberative? The one that's detailed?
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes I've been told I'm too detailed.
Sure. Now, you're obviously going to be told that when you're in a situation that doesn't warrant that level of detail. But when you're in an environment that says we need you to be very detailed, like let's take a financial analyst, right? You need to be extremely detailed in that the numbers got to be right to the penny. Then that becomes a very strong asset. Cindy, yours are just completely different, right? You have like communication and positivity, and you have all these people, adaptability, people-oriented strengths, relationship building strengths around your restorative.
Yeah.
And
responsibilities in my top 10.
yeah. So I would imagine that your restorative is like actually helping solve some sort of issue with people.
Yes. 95% of the time.
So share with the group what that looks like.
I work in healthcare, direct care with mentally and physically challenged adults. And the learning process at time, I sometimes get confused of it's my responsibility to help these people and it's not working at some point. And then my restorative kicks in of, well, we're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And if there's a problem, like somebody's medication is wrong, you're going to get it solved. You're going to get it fixed, and you're going to figure out why the heck this
is immediate.
Yeah. And why is this a problem in the first place? Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So that I just wanted to give you guys that example where that's what it looks like when you have restorative mixed with relationship building strengths all around it as well. Restorative may not do their best work with people that are more feeling oriented, more flexible, that like to talk a lot, that are focused on the past or focused on the future, because they are in the moment, addressing the problem, just trying to solve it. It's intense. And all the other things don't really matter to the restorative in that moment.
Funny thing about that, adaptability, that is my first one.
I know. And so you have this adaptable restorative, like, oh, well, we can solve the problem this way or this way or this way. It doesn't have to be a certain way.
Yeah, there's a million choices.
And I think that's also why you're able to let go a little bit more, because if you're just not solving the problem, well, then that's just not going to happen, or there's another way to do it, or you're just more adaptable, I think, than a normal restorative person.
Yep.
And I also think that if you have like restorative communication like you do, then maybe you're trying to solve problems with communication. If communication isn't there or people aren't talking, then you're stepping in going, hey, why aren't we talking, guys? Let's
Yeah.
communicate.
That is one of my biggest sayings in from home life to work life to everything is just talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just talk.
You're like, everything can be resolved if we just talk. Yeah. Here's a couple other ones: harmony, positivity, woo, for the same reasonings. And again, Cindy, you have the positivity restorative. So you have this, and you actually have harmony in your top 10 too. So yeah, you have these really interesting pairings with that restorative strength.
Yes, I've been told I'm a little unique.
Yeah. Little unicorn. And I think it's really nice, right, that she has positivity restorative, because then, you know, you don't get so hard or critical on yourself. You've kind of got this positive, oh, everything's going to be okay. Or, you know, the glass is full, and yeah, it's a problem. We need to solve it, but there's light on the other side. Where I think if you have extreme restorative, you can be like, this is a problem, it needs to be solved, and this is a problem, where you're feeling like it's a problem and it's a black hole until it gets resolved, and that's not necessarily healthy. Okay, one combination I wanted to point out to you guys is that if you have restorative and strategic, it can start looking like deliberative, because strategic plays out all those what if scenarios, while deliberative is kind of like modeling different scenarios at a detailed level. So you may think someone has deliberative if they have restorative strategic, when really it's the two, restorative strategic, that are producing the deliberative feel that you're getting from them. Okay, so restorative tend to connect well with analytical, because they're both trying to sort out that root cause. They connect well with arrangers because of the efficiency aspect of an arranger personality. They get along really well with command. This is one of the rare strengths that gets along well with command, because neither one of them mind conflict, because they just want to get to the root of things, be candid, and get everything out on the table. They get along well with deliberative, again, because of the deep level of detail, and both of them have an aspect of seriousness to their personality. So by the way, if you do have restorative deliberative, Janet, then you probably are more serious in general as a person, which just means you need to take on more serious type tasks, you know, like cybersecurity is a serious problem. So you know, you're built to go take that seriously and to go help that industry. Whereas, you know, people who have very light, bubbly personalities aren't necessarily going to want to help with that kind of endeavor. And then of course they get along well with discipline, because again, you're just, you know, trying to create efficiencies, get stuff done, stay streamlined, stay on task, stay focused. Focused, learner, responsibility, and strategic. We've kind of talked about those too. Anything you guys want to bring up before I go on? Okay. They become disengaged when they're not challenged. They do not like simple problems. They like difficult problems. They become disengaged when there's nothing broken, when there's no issues, when there's not anything to be saved or resurrected. Really what it comes down to is if they can be there, and because of them, something is revived, restored, resurrected, fixed, solved because of them, that's when they feel the most satisfied. And just so you restorative people, give you guys perspective, for us out here that don't have restorative, we hate problems. We hate them. We want you to solve them. We don't like them. We're going to procrastinate forever until someone else fixes that problem. You guys are at your best, obviously, when there's an issue, when there's a challenge, when something's broken, when something needs to be fixed, when something needs to be resolved. These are the situations where your brain really turns on and gets engaged and wants to get in there and do something about it. So for the restorative people on the call, what types of problems do y'all like fixing the most?
This is Jeannie. I personally like problems that actually can translate into business value versus problems that are just continuous improvement. We want to improve this, how can we move the dial, little by little type of thing. I prefer to look at, hey, we're solving a business problem.
You like business problems. Yeah.
Which obviously translate hopefully into business value and revenue dollars,
right,
etc.
Anybody like to solve mechanical problems? House problems, repairing your house?
Yeah, I think I'm an odd duck, Brandy, because 20 restorative is 29 for me.
Why does that make you an odd duck?
Because some examples. I'm the handyman around the house. I've always done the bills and stuff like that. And back when you had to balance your register, I was one of those that it had to balance to the penny. I would sit there for 2 hours until I found that penny.
You could be detailed, right? I mean, there's other strengths that are highly detailed.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to work on my car. Anything that I can do, anything I can do myself, I'll do. Then
you need to meet Deb Medaw.
But yeah, I mean, that's why I'm sitting here listening about this particular strength. And it's like, man, why is it number 29 for me? Because I do those things. Now I do procrastinate, like you were talking about for you. I will procrastinate on certain things. And then it's like, okay, the deadline's here. I got to get it done, and I get it done and pushed out.
And that's the difference, right? If you're willing to do it, but you don't really want to, but you have to. I mean, we all have to solve problems, right? Just like we all have to take care of certain things in our lives, like we have to. But this set of group that has restorative as a top 5, they love it. Like that's all they want to do is solve those problems.
So is her thing that's popping out the responsibility piece versus the restorative piece?
Let's look at Michelle's really quick.
Well, 9 responsibility is 9 for me. And then the discipline is 19. That's why I'm thinking I'm kind of an odd duck, but I think a lot of it was I had to adapt to do those things when I was younger. And so it's something that I learned, and I enjoy it, because I enjoyed working on the car back before all the electronics and crap was all in the cars nowadays. I enjoy doing things in the house and outside and building stuff and, all that kind of stuff. It's not things that I think really came naturally to me, but I found that I enjoyed it. But and like I said, all those other ones that you're talking about today that goes along with restorative, those are like lower down. They're past my top 10. And it's like, I guess it's because I had the need to go that direction. It's not natural for me to go that direction, but I had the need that pushed me that way.
And we can all learn.
Yeah.
You can all learn how to do something. You could learn how to do math, even if you don't like math.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You can learn how to spell, even if you don't like spelling. You can learn about history if you don't like history. It's not that we can't do the things that these other strengths do naturally.
But I like it though.
But not that much. If you procrastinate and wait forever to do it.
Well, that has to do with work stuff. That's what I procrastinate about. If there's a big project that I have to do.
Let me like give you another example.
Okay.
And maybe some of the people on the call can do it too, but like, do you spend the entire weekend restoring a car?
I probably would if I didn't have other people in my life that take my time. And if I had that skilled, I probably would, because I love working on the
So,
car.
but like what I'm trying to say is, Michelle, people who have restorative and want to restore a car all weekend, they do it. There's no excuses.
Okay.
There's nothing in their way.
Oh, okay.
There's no nothing. I mean, they're in there doing it right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not that way. It's like, I'm not, to heck with everybody else. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not that way.
But
But then,
there might be something like that you are that way with.
yeah.
Like, for example, intellects might say, all y'all have to just be put on hold. I need to go read a book this weekend. That's just, I have to go do that. Or, a belief personality might say, everybody's just got to be put on hold. I got to go help somebody this weekend. That's just something I have to do. So like, those are indicators for yourself. What do you do with your time because you just feel like you have to? Some of you might say, well, I just feel like I have to be there for my friends. I have to talk to them on the phone and I have to support them. Or I have to be there for my family. Like,
that's pretty much it. I mean, you can just look at my top 5 and
right. And so that's the priority, right? That's the priority we're seeing on the screen, is that, relationships to you are way more important than restoring a car, for example. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to drop everything and forget everybody else to go restore a car, even though I think that would be so much fun.
Okay. So if restorative is flexing that restorative strength and they're using it where it's just not appreciated, they might start to hear things like, man, you're negative, you're very critical, you're also overly self-critical. Why are you always focused on the problems? Why is everything an issue to you? These are the types of things they might start hearing when they're kind of like, well, these are problems. We need to solve these problems. Why don't you want to talk about it? But it's just an indicator that maybe you're not in the right environment or place, or working with the right manager, or working with the right people to actually solve the problems. Whereas when you're using that strength and you're flexing it, and it's in a great environment for it, people are going to be like, oh my God, you're such a great problem solver, right? You solve the hardest problems that we have. You're resilient. You don't stop until we get it fixed. The things you're able to turn around and fix is amazing. Like, you'll start hearing those types of things when that strength is needed, wanted, and appreciated. If you are around a restorative person, they love to be acknowledged for the fact that they're coping really well with a tough situation. They love to be recognized for their determination. They like to be recognized for the efficiencies that they're creating. You guys will have to, I'm so sorry. I'm so distracted. And I don't know if you can tell, because these cats are fighting hardcore outside this door. And it's like, why are you doing that? They're growling. You can hear them strangling each other. And they're just sitting right outside the door fighting. I have no idea why they just can't go play with their toys today outside the door. And so my brain keeps thinking, why are they doing this? Why are they sitting out there doing this right now?
They know you're busy. They do it on purpose. I swear, they do it on purpose.
It's so strange. It's just like,
ours do the same.
And you guys know, if you guys are cat people, they don't like closed doors. So it's must be causing them to all be, have anxiety right now or something.
You're blocking their territory. You're blocking their territory and they can't get to their territory.
Oh gosh, it's so funny. Okay. So when restorative communicate, they'll actually say the word problem a lot. And they'll talk about issues, and they'll talk about what needs to be fixed. And this is great when you have another restorative person around that wants to talk about the problems. My brother and I work with somebody who just loves to talk about the problems. I mean, she'll just talk about the problems. And my brother and I are both more on the maximizer side. So we're kind of like, okay, we've talked enough about the problems. What are the solutions? And then she'll ramble off. Oh, well, I solved them all. I solved this and this and this and this and this and this and that. And you're like, why are we talking about the problems if you solved them all? But she just loves, in communication, to discuss the problems. But she also loves to fix them. She loves to solve the problems, and she goes and gets them done, which is brilliant. And so when we're talking with them, we got to be willing to talk about the problems, the breakdowns, the challenges, what needs to be fixed. One of the things I love about one of my other restorative friends who's not on this call today is she will come to me and say, look, I have this problem. I need your help fixing it. Let's fix it. That's really fun, especially for a learner like myself who loves continuous improvement. It's like, okay, let's list our options. Let's figure out what will work for you in order to solve the problem. And then she usually goes and implements the solutions that we talk about very effectively to resolve the situation. Okay, there's lots of questions you can ask about problems. Ask them their perspective. What's broken? What needs to be fixed? What are you working on? What have you fixed recently? And in a sales and influencing type environment where they're trying to sell a product or service, to me, it's pretty obvious that you just go in and say, look, what's your problem? And you dig down and you really get to the root of the problem of the client that you're talking to. And then you show them how your products and services are going to resolve that issue.
So along that train of thought, if they don't see that it's a problem for them, they're not buying anything.
Well, would you buy something if you didn't think it was a problem for you?
If it helps me maximize something, I would.
You're like, my brain doesn't even work that way, Brandy. I guess my point is, like, if any of us don't think we have a problem, then why would we go pay for therapy? I mean,
Well,
right?
Well, therapy is a whole different debate.
But it's a problem solving mechanism.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're not going to go if we don't think we need it.
Right.
So yeah, I think you always in sales have to establish a need for sure. But like you're saying, Brad, your point is it could be a need to solve a problem, or it could be a need to maximize, take something to the next level.
But they're not interested in the maximize, they're interested in the fix.
That's right. They're interested in, and what's so interesting, I wish I had a really good example for this. Different people will take the same thing and they will reframe it different way to motivate themselves. Okay. So let's take an example. Okay. Let's say I'm suggesting that you need to read a book. So for the learners, I'm going to say, if you want to learn how to do this, you need to read this book. If I'm with a strategist, I'm going to say, if you want to get these business results, then you're going to read this book. If I'm working with restorative, I'm going to say, if you want to fix this problem, then you need to read this book. If I'm with a maximizer, I'm going to say, if you want to maximize your business, then you need to read this book. So it's the same book. It's the same suggestion to everybody, but the way that I am suggesting it is in their language, so they actually read it.
Okay, I'm with you.
So it's kind of like thinking about how somebody needs it framed in order for them to hear you.
Right.
The intent is different.
Well, the intent is the same. I need them all to read the book because
Yes. Okay. So maybe the reason, I mean,
they just have to hear it differently. It's like you can't hear it's like you don't speak this other language, right? So if I speak to you in Chinese, you're going, I don't understand you, so I'm not listening to you, and I don't care what you just said. But if I speak to you in English and that's the language you happen to speak, then maybe you'll listen.
That must be why when people tell me, don't take this personal, because they already know me, and they know right off the bat, before they even say it, I probably shouldn't say this because I know she's going to take it personal, because that's what I gravitate towards.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not taking it personally. I'm trying to do my job and the right job and what's best for the person I'm serving.
That's right. That's right. And so they may think you're taking it personal because if they acted the way you did, it was because they took it personal. They don't realize that maybe you're not taking it personal. You have these other forces driving your behavior in that moment.
Good point.
Yeah. Most people tell you who they are, right? Because most people come from their own frame of reference. Whenever they're dealing with you, it's our job to be observant of that. So we go, oh, they're telling me this. I don't need to hear that. But what they're really telling me is who they are. So now I know how to deal with them when that situation comes up for them. Obviously, if we're going to try to sell to a restorative person, we're going to need to really, address, say, what are your issues? What are your problems? Here's how you're going to solve them with this product or service. And we got to demonstrate that, and we got to do it pretty quick. If you guys are interviewing right now, you want to have those list of solutions that you've implemented, and some details around this is what I saw, and this is what I did, and this is how I got people to work together to solve a problem, and here's the result of the solution. Those are very powerful statements in an interview. By the way, the cats got tired. They're no longer banging away at the door, fighting. So the things you want to listen for if you are trying to go, is this person restorative? Do I need to interact with them in a restorative way? Are they kind of hard on themselves? Is it all about, do they talk a lot about how they're going to fix themselves, what's wrong with them, and what they need to fix? Do they seem to focus on what's wrong and what's problematic and issues? Do they seem to have a lot of issues in their life? And it's not necessarily that they have issues, but does it seem, because they're talking a lot about different things that they're trying to resolve? These are sort of those indicators that someone has restorative. And you'll hear them use words, right? Restore, fix, problem, solution. This is what I need to do to solve the problem. This is what I need to do to overcome the issue. Okay, so restorative people on the call, you are your toughest critic and maybe overly self-critical. Remember, you are never the problem, but there may be something you can learn or do differently to resolve an issue. Focus on obtaining knowledge and skills needed to solve your problems. Because you define yourself on your ability to cope, make sure you develop productive coping methods to assist you as you persistently deal with problems that remain unresolved. When you're not coping well, step away to regroup, because when you guys aren't coping well and you project that on other people, it's quite negative. Note that others simply do not care about being resilient like you do. So you might be going, don't you want to solve this problem? And somebody else may be like, no, I want you to. They're like, I care less about that. So just realize that not everybody cares about that like you do. You could create problems for the sake of solving them, again, because that's how you're motivated. So take the time to identify which problems are most important to solve. You don't want to just create a bunch of problems to solve a bunch of problems. You want to go, okay, if I'm really going to sit here and solve a problem, which is the one that's going to have the most impact? Your energy is best served in an environment that requires a master problem solver to solve an abundance of complicated problems. You guys are so good at solving problems that you want to continuously improve yourself by solving harder and harder and harder problems. Because you like to solve problems, you may not empower other people to solve their own problems, which then could result in a dependency on you to solve all the problems. So you want to resist the urge to rush in and solve people's problems for them. Instead, empower them to solve their own problems so you can focus on solving the hard, difficult, complex problems. As a manager, coach, teacher, parent, you may wish to step in, save the day, be the hero, right? Save the issues. But understand that by doing this, you may be preventing them from learning how to solve their own problems in their futures. Decide when stepping in to help someone will significantly impact their life or build trust because they need the help, or when stepping back empowers them to solve their own problems, especially later on when you're not around.
So one thought just to share with you and the group that we see within the people's side of the business a lot of times. A
Uh-huh.
lot of times you're describing is the firefighter is also the arsonist.
Yeah,
So they start the fire so they can put the fire out.
right. That's exactly what this is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just because that's the way they're motivated. So for those of us that are working with that type of person, we just have to let them start the fires if they're going to put them out. You know, and like that manager I worked for, there was a lot of fires he lit that I was like, I'm not taking care of that one. I'll take care of this one or this one, but there's too many. You may be attracted to problematic people since solving human problems are complex. When it comes to partnerships, consider finding a partner that collaboratively solves problems with you. So the two of you can tackle big problems together. That's more fun than trying to fix somebody that you're partnering with. You may show frustration when problems remain unresolved. When you feel this way, just take the opportunity to identify a different solution to solve the problem. Restorative is not a relationship building strength. Refrain from seeing people as problems to solve, since people typically don't like being seen as problematic. If you do not wish people to feel overwhelmed by your focus on their flaws and shortcomings, build up their confidence by finding ways to consistently show and communicate appreciation for their strengths, contributions, and current levels of performance. You can also use the problematic things people say and do as indicators of what system ultimately needs to be fixed. So what I mean by that is that instead of going, oh, you are the problem, maybe the system is broke. Let's fix the system so that you start behaving in a way that is what is desired versus, you know, pointing the finger at the person. Depending on your other strengths, you may be inclined to focus on processes rather than people. Ensure that you've established a connection and trust first before addressing potential issues. You know, it's so complicated when you're doing processes because you want to fix the processes, but processes are ultimately driven by people. So you do have to learn how to influence or connect with people in order to get them to pick up a new process, that even if it's for their own good. You could be perceived as negative as you confront unconsidered issues. Be mindful of how to frame your concerns so that they are received with open arms rather than resistance. Always accompany your concerns with empathy, thoughtfulness, and diverse solutions. Okay. You know, working with others is, look, offering your services to help solve problems, you know, helping people identify root problems and root causes, but also understanding that they are the ones that have to decide that they want that fixed, and that they want your help fixing it. So you can bring things to people's attention, but you can't force the porridge down their throat. And you can be there for them and support them. And you can, you know, one of the woman who was the president of PepsiCo, when I was listening to her speak one time, she was talking about, I'm pretty sure, by the way, she has restorative in her top 5. She was saying how she got into the problem of solving other people's problems for them, other executives, because they were like, hey, you'll solve our problem for us, I'm going to bring it to you. And she said it you know, was too much and it wasn't working. And so she had to really turn her focus onto helping them grow and developing them into the problem solver. So being there for them and helping them work through it, but essentially empowering them to solve their own problems so that she wasn't the bottleneck for solutions. Okay. And same thing on the other end, we can recruit help from the restorative people, as well as have them help us learn how to, you know, fish for our own fish. And I've listed all the partnerships like usual, so you guys can go through this on your own time. Okay, so, you know, if you have restorative and you are with someone at home and you're in a partnership, you know, just helping them fix things, especially just tangible things, that could be finances, that could be the fence, that could be, you know, something with the car, it could be, you know, just helping out with a parent that needs help. some tangible things. And then it's that fine balance of helping your partner with problems so that you're contributing to their life, but you're also not the sole solutioner, right? I have one friend, she's never taken this. She's a high school friend of mine. Pretty sure she has restorative in her top 5 because her whole family doesn't even know how to, like, whole family meaning like husband and children, don't know how to fix the toilet. If the toilet's broken, it's like she's the only one. And so that would be an extreme situation where, you're contributing a ton of value to the relationship by fixing all the problems, but you're also not you become an enabler where you're not allowing people to solve their own problems. This makes me think, Cindy, your brother might have restorative as top 5 as well. Because he solves all the problems in his household. He takes full responsibility of so many things.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then vice versa, if we are partnering with a restorative, this is interesting because they are very independent. They need their space. They need to solve their own problems. It's hard to help them unless they are open and asking for help on solving issues. They feel defeated when problems are remaining unresolved. If they're not coping well with a tough situation, it can be very difficult. So to be a partner to a restorative person and support them effectively is an art, let's say, which is an art of giving them, the space they need, giving them the resources and tools they need, and being there for them, but not solving the problems for them, letting them, sort of figure it out for themselves. Has anybody had any other thoughts as I'm going through these that you want to share? Okay. So if you're a parent with restorative, the cool thing is you can teach children how to effectively solve major issues for themselves. So all throughout their lives, they take ownership over solving their own problems, and they're not a victim to any situation. They can sort it out. I think that's one of the great things that you can share and teach your children and pass along. You can also help them with the coping mechanisms. I mean, you're obviously an awesome coper, so you can teach your children how to cope really well with tough situations. And, these are the parents who are really instilling grit and perseverance and, helping their children understand that they can get through anything and they can solve the problem, even if it's not obvious at first. You just keep going until you find resolution. When you have a child that is got restorative as a strength, you want to encourage them by placing them into, opportunities where they get to develop their solutioning skills, allowing them to fix things, allowing them to fix a variety of things so they can see what they really enjoy working on. And just supporting them by getting them the resources that they need to continue to develop those skills. And again, it's challenging when they're not coping well or when they're frustrated and when problems remain unresolved. It's really helping them figure out how to move forward through those obstacles, which they'll feel very good about doing as they do. So restorative leaders are really tough. They just don't give up. They're at their best when leading teams that are solving really hard, complex problems, or leading teams that are improving things around the company, or like Jeannie said, creating business value, developing revenue. And they're the type of leader that are going to bring in, just like that leader I had, they're going to bring in all types of problems for the teams to solve. And if you flip it and you're managing a restorative person, then the way that you're going to, again, frame everything is, hey, there's a problem that needs to be solved. Can you lead that up? Can you head that up? Can you get it solved? Can you go work it? And you share with them what really needs to happen. The restorative person's also going to bring you lots of problems, and they're going to say, can I go solve this? Can I go solve that? Can I go do this? Can I go work on that? And so as a manager, you got to say yes and no to certain things, depending on the priority, alignment with the strategic initiatives, as well as the impact of what they're seeing. But I also think it's important to give a restorative person some resources to say, well, if you want to solve all these problems, how are you going to do it? Do you need resources to do it, so that they can give up some of the easier problems and let other people do those, but then they still feel responsible, like they had a big hand in identifying that and getting that solved for the company. But then you're getting them to spend most of their time on the hard, complex ones that need their brain power. Okay, if you're working for a restorative person, know that they're going to be really hard on themselves, and that they're rarely going to praise you because they're just focused on solving the problems. They unless they know better, of course, right? This is just this is naturally what you can expect. You can know that they're going to have a critical eye on everything you do, and you got to just not take it personal. And what you want to do is share any sort of problems that you've been solving or improvements that you've been making, because that's really going to energize them to see those things getting done. Okay. So if you have restorative and your manager doesn't, you can certainly just go start to tackle things and then share the problems that you're solving and the improvements that you're making and the impact that you're having with the manager. He or she may be excited about that, or they may not. You really have to just go to work and do the things that you think are right for yourself, so that you feel satisfied and come home going, I took care of some pretty tough things today, even if you're not getting acknowledgement from your manager. And then, of course, you can volunteer as you identify issues and problems. You can bring them up, but you can also volunteer to lead them up and solution them. But again, this is, going to be around, and you can do that line of thinking too. Are these really strategically aligned problems that I'm bringing up, or are they just all the problems I see? Because the restorative person is going to see all of the issues. But then they do have to be prioritized to say, okay, which ones are the ones that really need to be tackled? And sometimes that's not going to be the ones that actually have the greatest impact. Sometimes that's the one that's going to have the most visibility, or the one that's just aligned most with the manager that you have. So it's real tricky in a corporate environment. In a small business environment, like some of us have, it's a little bit easier because we just go, man, we just do the thing that impacts, the bottom line the most. But that's not always the case in corporate. Okay, so be an effective coach for restorative. So this is my role. It's, really helping them list out all of the, issues and problems they want to take on, and helping them see, okay, how are we going to do that? What are the different things you need to go do to skill up or get yourself ready, or the conversations that you need to have in order to be able to solve these problems. And then, always recognizing like when these people are coping really well with difficult situations. It's something they take a lot of pride in. So it's my job as a coach to recognize that. And then also we're sitting there together trying to identify areas where they can move into or take more responsibility or solve more problems. It's always like an evolution of, okay, here's where I'm at, and these are the types of problems I'm solving now, but then later also I might want to move into some other areas. So it's, identifying those and then figuring out the how we're going to get somebody over there so they can do even more work, more, better work, take on more responsibility, more problems, more difficult problems. Okay, so if you are a restorative person and you're coaching other humans, it's going to help you to study problem-solving techniques, frameworks, let's say like psychology, what goes on in the human brain that causes them to behave in certain ways, so that you actually understand, okay, this is how I need to work with this person in order to get them motivated to take care of their situation. And then obviously you can help your clients by listing out the issues and problems that they have, and then saying, okay, which one do you want to go tackle first? And helping them prioritize that list, and then helping them come up with solutions and things they have never thought about before in order to turn things around. This is a list of daily or weekly or monthly actions that a restorative person could be taking to be at their best every single day. What other thoughts do you guys have as we've talked through this today?
I'm thinking just handling the problems and get out of their way.
Yeah, and I think you also have to compare your list of problems to theirs and figuring out which ones they want to solve, because they may prioritize their own problems that they think are problems that they want to solve over yours. So I think that is I think an alignment discussion is probably pretty important with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you don't have enough of this restorative stuff going on for you, you got to look out for, being a victim, being helpless, avoiding taking care of the things you need to take care of, leaving things unresolved. If you're in that sweet spot, there's solutions all over the map. There's perseverance and persistence going on. There's improvements going on. There's healing. And if you're an excessive restorative, you do have to pay attention to, are you being obsessive or insensitive or critical? Do people see you as problematic or rude or, too obstinate? So it's just, again, figuring out how to use your restorative and put it in the right environment so that it is optimized. Then these are some career paths that people who have restorative really enjoy. What else?
Was it Michelle that was the mechanic?
Yeah.
I see her. She's an auto mechanic. So I see that on there.
Uh-huh.
I would do anything that didn't require me to get under the car.
These are a couple of books that I think the restorative people might enjoy reading. Turn the Ship Around. It's a turnaround situation. Can't Hurt Me is all about grit and perseverance to solve some problems with himself. I think you guys will enjoy that. He was a Navy SEAL. Okay. Any other final thoughts, questions? Even just like how restorative might interact with anything else, or any experiences that you want to share with the group today. Has this been helpful? Any insights?
It's been very helpful in my line of work, realizing there's some things I need to work on, that maybe I considered, why is this staff member this way or that way? And maybe it's not them, maybe it's me. Just mulling over situations that I've went through, one of the biggest things to change in my line of work with the staff that I work with, employees, when I say staff, is a change in attitude. It gets very, very negative. From, I have to work overtime all the time, and how come this, and why don't they do this, and the bosses don't listen, and it's very negative at times, and I need to be very careful about my words to try and generate a positive, yes, and letting them know such things as, well, thank God we don't have to do this, or at least this changed, to try and put some positivity in there to try and combat that negativity.
Do you think that people who are focused on some of the negative or the, or maybe more critically inclined are attracted to your line of work?
No, because we all do the same thing. We all carry the same title. We all do the same thing, direct care.
Mm-hmm.
The difference would be I'm, of course, now retired and work only part-time, and they do not. They work full-time.
I just mean, like, I don't know that you probably have many maximizers in your line of work, because it's difficult to maximize within that line of work, right?
True.
To take things to a level of sparkly. So then it makes me wonder if people who are, seeing what's wrong and then seeing what needs to be fixed are maybe attracted to that line of work because it is full of problems to solve. And so maybe it is actually by nature that people who are a little bit more critically inclined are attracted to that job. And when you get a bunch of critical people all together, maybe it becomes more negative.
I could see that very much so.
What's
Is
the
what-
line of work? What's your line of?
I work with mentally and physically disabled people, in a range from very, very polite, good behavior to very extremely bad behavior.
Yeah.
Due to mental disabilities,
Yeah.
It's a tough job,
Well,
very mentally.
that's what I call a calling. You got to want to do that job.
I did it for almost 40 years.
Yep. Good for you.
Thank you. I retired and went back 5 months later because I wasn't done fixing things.
Mm.
I've always enjoyed it.
Brad, any other thoughts or questions about how to work with a restorative person effectively?
No, but this was helpful with one in particular, to help me understand some of their train of thought sometimes.
Yes.
Um,
And also the communication
right.
that may be occurring, right?
Yeah. So no, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. What about you, Janet? Anything else that you want to get out of this today?
I'm good.
You good? Michelle, Susan, Stacy, anything else from you ladies?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much for joining today, everybody. Next week, we will be discussing the input strength.
Cool.
So we will talk to you then.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Have
you.
Thank you. Have a
Have a great
day.
one, Brandy. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brandy.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye.